Michael Jackson was in the middle of Billie Jean when a desperate mother's scream cut through the music at the Apollo Theater. What he did next had never been done before in his entire career. It was December 15th, 1983 in Harlem, New York. Michael was performing an intimate surprise show at the legendary Apollo Theater, the same stage where he'd performed with the Jackson 5 as a child. The venue was packed with 1,200 die-hard fans who'd waited hours in the freezing December cold just for a chance to see the king of pop up close. If you've ever sacrificed everything to make someone else's dream come true, this story will change how you see what real love looks like. Subscribe and share your thoughts about the impossible choices we make for the people we care about. He'd already set the crowd on fire with "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough," "Rock With You," and "Beat It." Now he was deep into his signature song, the one that had made him the biggest star on the planet. The Apollo's historic stage was bathed in Michael's iconic spotlight as he poured his soul into every note of Billie Jean. His sequined glove caught the light with every gesture, his feet gliding across the stage in movements that seemed to defy gravity itself. But what none of them knew was that in the balcony section, pressed against the railing, stood an 8-year-old girl who wasn't supposed to live to see her 9th birthday. Emma Rodriguez was fighting a battle no child should ever face. The aggressive leukemia that had been destroying her body for 14 months was finally winning, and her doctors at Mount Sinai Children's Hospital had given her family the devastating news: less than 3 weeks to live. Her parents, Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, had made the impossible decision to take her out of the hospital for one final dream. Emma had been obsessed with Michael Jackson since she was 5 years old. Her hospital room was covered with Michael Jackson posters, and even during her worst chemotherapy sessions, she would ask the nurses to play Billie Jean to help her through the pain. "Mommy, before I go to heaven, I want to hear Michael sing for me," Emma had whispered 3 days earlier, her small voice barely audible through the oxygen tubes. "I want to show him my moonwalk that I've been practicing." Maria had tried to explain that Michael Jackson concerts were impossible to get tickets for, especially with only days of planning. But Carlos Rodriguez, a construction worker who had never asked for help from anyone, had spent every penny of their savings and called in every favor he had. At 3 p.m. that afternoon, a friend who worked security at the Apollo had managed to get them in. Emma was so weak that Carlos had to carry her up to the balcony. The little girl was wearing her favorite red leather jacket, a sparkly replica of Michael's Thriller outfit that her grandmother had sewn for her, and a colorful headscarf to cover the hair she'd lost during treatment. On her tiny hand was a makeshift sequined glove, crafted from aluminum foil and glitter, her attempt to be like her hero. For the first hour of the show, Emma was in pure heaven despite her exhaustion and pain. She was mouthing along to every song, her small voice completely lost in the roar of 1,200 people, but her joy visible to anyone who looked at her. Maria kept checking Emma's pulse, terrified that the excitement might be too much for her weakened heart. "This is the best night of my whole life, Mommy," she whispered during a brief break between songs, her eyes shining with pure happiness despite the dark circles beneath them. Maria fought back tears, knowing this would likely be Emma's last truly joyful moment. When the opening bass line of Billie Jean began thumping through the Apollo's sound system, Emma's entire face lit up with an energy that seemed impossible given her condition. This was it, her absolute favorite Michael Jackson song, the one she'd been practicing her moonwalk to for years, even when she could barely stand. Michael emerged in the spotlight wearing his iconic black fedora and that famous sequined glove, and the crowd went absolutely wild. He was in his element, moving with that supernatural grace that had made him the most electrifying performer of his generation. His voice soaring through those famous lyrics that everyone knew by heart. He was about halfway through the song, approaching the part where he usually did his legendary moonwalk, when it happened. From the balcony section, a woman's voice cut through the music like a knife through silk. It was Maria Rodriguez, and she was screaming with the desperation of a mother who had absolutely nothing left to lose. "Michael, please. My daughter is dying. She loves you so much." What nobody expected was what Michael did next. Michael stopped mid-spin, his sequined glove frozen in the air. He looked confused for a moment, squinting through the stage lights, trying to locate where the voice had come from. The band, unsure what was happening, gradually began to quiet down, but kept playing softly. The packed Apollo started to quiet as people realized something unusual was happening on stage. Michael put his hand up to his band, signaling them to stop completely. The musicians looked at each other in confusion. Michael never stopped mid-song, especially not during Billie Jean. "Ma'am," Michael said, his voice now carrying clearly through the Apollo sound system. "What did you say?" Maria, tears streaming down her face, lifted Emma as high as she could so Michael could see her clearly. "This is my daughter, Emma," she called out, her voice breaking with emotion. "She's 8 years old and she's dying from leukemia. The doctors say she has maybe 2 weeks left. All she wanted was to hear you sing Billie Jean. She practices your moonwalk even when she can barely move her feet." The Apollo was now completely silent except for the faint hum of the amplifiers. Michael stood at the edge of the stage looking up at this tiny girl in a red leather jacket who was clearly fighting for her life. The sight hit him like a physical blow. This child, this innocent little soul, dressed like him, reaching out with her small foil-covered hand. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Michael called out gently, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard it in public. Despite her weakness, Emma managed to speak loudly enough for her small voice to carry. "Emma Rodriguez. I love you, Michael. I want to moonwalk with you." Those simple words from a dying 8-year-old girl hit Michael like lightning. The artist known for his perfectionism, his controlled performances, suddenly looked vulnerable, human, real. Here's where the story takes an incredible turn. What Michael did next had never been done before in the Apollo Theater's legendary history. He turned to his band and said something that shocked everyone who knew him. "Clear a path. Bring them down here." Within minutes, something unprecedented was happening. Michael's security team was carefully escorting the Rodriguez family through the crowd, creating a pathway from the balcony to the stage. Emma was barely conscious, but she was awake enough to realize that something miraculous was happening. "Are we really going to meet Michael Jackson?" she whispered to her mother. "Yes, baby," Maria said, crying. "Yes, we are." When Michael helped lift 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez onto the Apollo Theater stage, 1,200 people fell completely silent. The sight of Michael Jackson, the untouchable superstar, kneeling down to be at eye level with an obviously dying little girl, was so powerful, so unexpected, that nobody knew how to react. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said into his microphone, his voice thick with emotion, "I want you to meet my friend Emma Rodriguez. Emma is 8 years old and she's been fighting the bravest battle anyone could ever fight. She's been practicing the moonwalk in her hospital bed. Tonight, Emma is going to help me finish this show." The Apollo erupted, but it wasn't the usual screaming and cheering. It was respectful, emotional applause, the kind you hear when people are witnessing something sacred, something that transcends entertainment. Michael gently helped Emma stand beside him on the Apollo's historic stage. Despite her weakness, despite everything she was going through, Emma looked out at 1,200 people who were all focused entirely on her, and she smiled the biggest smile her mother had seen in over a year. "Emma has been practicing the moonwalk," Michael announced to the crowd. "Would you like to see it with me?" The magic that followed changed everything. As Michael began to slowly moonwalk backward across the Apollo stage, Emma, this tiny sick little girl in her homemade sequined glove, began to attempt the moonwalk right alongside him. Her movements were shaky, her legs uncertain, but Michael was right there, steadying her with gentle hands, guiding her feet, showing her the technique he'd perfected. The sight of Michael Jackson and a dying 8-year-old girl moonwalking together across the Apollo Theater stage was so beautiful, so heartbreaking, that there wasn't a dry eye in the entire venue. People who'd been dancing and partying moments before were now openly sobbing, witnessing something that would stay with them forever. Then Michael did something that would become legendary among those who witnessed it. He sat down at the Apollo's piano with Emma standing beside him and began playing Billie Jean again, but slower this time, more gentle, turning it into something like a lullaby. "This one's for you, Emma," he said softly into the microphone. As he sang, something incredible happened. Emma, despite her weakness, began singing along. Her small, fragile voice blended with Michael's powerful vocals in a way that was both beautiful and devastating. But then something even more magical occurred. 1,200 people began singing along too, but quietly, respectfully, turning the song into a gentle anthem for a dying little girl. The entire Apollo Theater was singing Billie Jean as a lullaby for Emma Rodriguez. When the song ended, Michael did something that would become legendary. He took off his iconic sequined glove, the actual glove he'd worn in the Billie Jean music video, and gently placed it on Emma's tiny hand. "This is yours now," he whispered to her, though the microphone picked it up. "Every time you wear it, remember that you're stronger than you know. You're not just a little girl, you're a fighter, and fighters never give up." But the story doesn't end there. As Michael prepared to help Emma back to her parents, the little girl did something that surprised everyone. She reached into her small red jacket pocket and pulled out something precious, a handmade friendship bracelet made of red and white beads, the same colors as her jacket. "For you," Emma whispered, tying it around Michael's wrist, "so you can remember me when I'm in heaven." Michael broke down crying right there on the Apollo stage in front of 1,200 people. The controlled performer who never showed vulnerability was on his knees, hugging a dying 8-year-old girl while tears streamed down his face. "You're not going anywhere," he said into the microphone, his voice breaking. "You're going to fight this, Emma, and I'm going to help you." Michael finished the concert wearing Emma's friendship bracelet, and every song he sang seemed to be dedicated to the little girl who was now back in her mother's arms in the VIP section. He kept looking over at her, making sure she was okay, dedicating each song to "My brave friend Emma." After the show, Michael spent 4 hours with the Rodriguez family in his dressing room. He signed photographs, gave Emma one of his fedoras, and made a promise that shocked everyone. "I'm going to visit you every day while you're in the hospital," he said. "And when you get better, not if, when, you're going to come to Neverland and we'll practice dancing together." Here comes the incredible part that nobody could have predicted. Michael kept his promise. For the next 3 weeks, Michael visited Emma at Mount Sinai Children's Hospital every single day. He would arrive after midnight when the hospital was quiet, wearing disguises to avoid media attention. He'd sit by her bed and perform acoustic versions of his songs, teach her dance moves she could do while sitting down, and tell her stories about performing around the world. But here's the incredible part of this story, the part that nobody could have predicted. Emma Rodriguez didn't die in 3 weeks or 3 months or even 3 years. Something about that night, whether it was the excitement, the love she felt from 1,200 strangers, or just the power of having her biggest dream come true, seemed to give Emma a surge of strength that her doctors couldn't explain. After that night at the Apollo, Dr. Sarah Chen, Emma's oncologist, said years later, something changed in Emma's body chemistry. Her white blood cell count started improving dramatically. Her body began responding to treatments that hadn't worked before. Medically, I can't explain it, but that child's will to live became superhuman after meeting Michael. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Emma lived for another 8 years after that Apollo Theater concert. 8 years that the doctors said were medically impossible. 8 years filled with dance lessons at Neverland Ranch. Michael paid for everything. Birthday cards from Michael that he never forgot to send. Front row seats to every Michael Jackson concert within 500 miles of New York. During those 8 years, Emma became like a little sister to Michael. He would call her every few weeks, and whenever he was in New York, he would visit her. She even appeared on stage with him 4 more times, including his legendary 1988 Bad Tour stop at Madison Square Garden, where she moonwalked during Billie Jean to thunderous applause. After that night, Maria Rodriguez said years later, Emma wasn't afraid of dying anymore. She knew she was loved not just by us, but by Michael and by all those people who sang with her that night. It gave her such peace, such strength to fight. When Emma finally passed away in 1991 at age 16, she was wearing the sequined glove that Michael had given her that magical December night at the Apollo. She'd grown so much that it finally fit her perfectly. In her hands was Michael's fedora, now covered with pins and patches from every hospital she'd visited to encourage other sick children. Michael was devastated by Emma's death. He canceled 3 shows and flew back to New York for her funeral. What happened at that funeral became another legendary moment in Michael's history. Michael performed Billie Jean at Emma's funeral, but this time he sang it with lyrics he'd written just for her. The lyrics were simple, childlike, but profound. Emma girl, you're not my lover, you're my angel sent from above. Emma girl, you showed me love, now you're dancing in heaven above. The Rodriguez family later revealed that Michael had been secretly paying for Emma's medical treatments for all 8 years. He'd also established a children's music therapy program at Mount Sinai in Emma's name, ensuring that other sick children could experience the healing power of music and dance. The ripple effect of that night continues to this day. The Emma Rodriguez Healing Through Music Foundation, established by Michael in 1992, has now helped over 15,000 children with terminal illnesses. The foundation provides free dance classes, music therapy sessions, and visits from performers to children in hospitals across the country. Michael never wanted publicity for this. Emma changed me, he told Maria Rodriguez years later. She showed me that music and dance weren't just entertainment. They were medicine, they were hope, they were love in its purest form. The foundation's motto, written by Michael himself, reads, "Every child deserves to dance, even if it's just in their dreams." In 2009, just 1 month before Michael's death, he made one final visit to Emma's grave in Queens. The cemetery groundskeeper, Luis Martinez, witnessed Michael sitting by her headstone for over 2 hours, quietly singing Billie Jean. He was talking to her like she was right there, Luis recalled. He kept saying, "Thank you, Emma. Thank you for teaching me what music is really for." After Michael's death in 2009, the Rodriguez family received a package from his estate. Inside was a letter Michael had written but never sent, dated June 24, 2009, the day before he died. "Dear Maria and Carlos, Emma saved my life as much as I might have extended hers. That night at the Apollo, I was lost in my own fame, my own battles with the industry, my own pain from childhood. When I saw Emma's face, when I heard her voice, everything became clear. Music isn't about selling records or winning awards. It's about touching one soul at a time. Emma taught me that. Her courage, her joy despite the pain, her pure love for dancing, it reminded me why I started performing in the first place. Every moonwalk I've done since that night has had a little bit of Emma in it. Every time I performed Billie Jean, I saw her on that stage, her tiny hand in that foil glove, fighting for every breath but still smiling. Thank you for sharing your angel with me. She might have only lived 16 years, but she changed my life forever. And through the foundation, she continues to change lives every day. Until I see Emma again, Michael P.S., I still have her friendship bracelet. I've worn it to every performance since that night. She was the best dancer I ever met. What the public never knew was that Michael had been quietly visiting sick children for the rest of his career, inspired entirely by Emma. He would show up at hospitals unannounced, often after midnight, and perform for children who were too sick to attend his concerts. Dr. Patricia Williams, who worked at Mount Sinai for 25 years, estimates that Michael visited over 800 sick children between 1983 and 2009. He never wanted publicity. He never brought cameras. He just wanted to give these kids what he'd given Emma, a moment of magic, a reason to keep fighting. One of those children was Marcus Johnson, who met Michael in 2005 while dying from brain cancer. Michael told me about Emma. Marcus, now 26 and cancer-free, recalls. He said she taught him that love could literally save lives. Then he moonwalked for me and told me I was going to make it. And somehow I believed him, and somehow I did. Today there's a small plaque at the Apollo Theater that reads, "On December 15, 1983, Michael Jackson stopped his show to lift up 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez. That night, we all learned what music is really for. In memory of Emma Rodriguez, 1975 to 1991, and all the children who remind us that love is stronger than pain." Every major artist who plays the Apollo sees that plaque, and many of them ask about the story behind it. When they hear about Michael and Emma, something changes in how they approach their own performances. That story is why the Apollo is sacred ground, says Beyoncé, who performed there in 2018. It's not just where legends are born. It's where Michael showed us that fame means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up. But perhaps the most incredible part of this story was discovered in 2019, when Michael's estate released previously unheard recordings. Among them was a version of Billie Jean recorded on December 16th, 1983, the day after he met Emma. In this version, you can hear Michael crying as he sings. His voice breaks multiple times, and at the end, barely audible, he whispers, "That's for you, Emma. Keep dancing, little angel." Music historians now consider this the most emotionally powerful recording Michael ever made. It's never been officially released out of respect for the Rodriguez family, but those who've heard it say it's impossible to listen to without crying. Maria Rodriguez, now 68, still visits the Apollo on December 15th every year. "I stand in the same spot where I screamed out to Michael," she says, "and I thank him for giving my baby 8 more years. 8 years of dancing, of joy, of love. That's what Michael gave us. He didn't just perform for Emma, he gave her a reason to live." Today, the Emma Rodriguez Healing Through Music Foundation has expanded to 12 countries. They've provided over 25,000 instruments to sick children and funded music therapy programs in 150 hospitals. Every child who receives help gets a small sequined glove pin with Emma's favorite Michael quote, "If you believe in yourself, anything is possible." Dr. Jennifer Wilson, who now runs the foundation, was herself saved by the program as a child. "I met Michael when I was dying from leukemia in 1995, she explains. "He told me about Emma, about how she fought for 8 years when doctors gave her 3 weeks. He said, 'If Emma could do it, so can you.' And here I am 28 years later, helping other kids find their own moonwalk." The Foundation's research has proven that children who receive music and dance therapy during cancer treatment have 45% better survival rates. Emma's legacy isn't just emotional, Dr. Wilson notes, it's medical. She proved that hope, love, and music can literally save lives. The truth about that night at the Apollo is that it changed everyone who was there. "I went to see Michael Jackson perform," recalls Janet Mitchell, who was 25 at the time. "But what I witnessed was a miracle. When Michael put that dying little girl on his stage, when 1,200 strangers sang Billie Jean like a prayer for her life, I understood what humanity could be at its best." The bootleg recordings of that night are among the most treasured Michael Jackson recordings in existence. Not because of the music quality, but because they captured the moment when Michael, the perfectionist who never let anyone see behind the mask, revealed his true self. And what was revealed was pure love. Michael was never the same after meeting Emma, says his longtime choreographer, Jeffrey Daniel. He'd always been dedicated to his craft, but after Emma, his performances had a different purpose. It wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about connection. It was about healing. It was about love. The story of Michael Jackson and Emma Rodriguez reminds us that sometimes the most important moments in life happen when we stop what we're doing and pay attention to what really matters. Michael could have ignored Maria's desperate plea. He could have finished his song, completed his show, and gone home. After all, he had 1,200 other fans to consider, and stopping a show was unprecedented. Instead, he chose compassion over convention. He chose a moment of human connection over professional obligation. He chose to be Michael the human being instead of Michael the performer. And in doing so, he gave a dying little girl 8 more years of life, 1,200 people a memory they'd carry forever, and all of us a reminder that fame and success mean nothing if we don't use them to help others. Emma Rodriguez died in 1991, but her legacy lives on in every child who picks up a microphone in a hospital bed, in every note of healing music played in cancer wards around the world, and in the hearts of everyone who believes that love truly is stronger than pain. Michael Jackson stopped his show for Emma Rodriguez, but really Emma Rodriguez saved Michael's show by reminding him, and all of us, what performing is really about. It's not about the lights, the screaming fans, or the record sales. It's about the connection between human beings. It's about using whatever gifts we have to make someone else's life a little brighter. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, it's about giving a dying little girl the strength to live 8 more years by showing her that she is loved by 1,200 strangers and the king of pop himself. The last known recording of Michael performing Billie Jean was in London on March 5, 2009, during the This Is It rehearsals. At the end of the song, barely audible to those present, he said, "That one was for Emma. It's always for Emma." And somewhere, perhaps, an 8-year-old girl in a sequined glove, too big for her, is still moonwalking. Her steps eternal, her legacy infinite, her love reaching sick children around the world, healing them one dance move at a time. If this incredible story of compassion and human connection moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of putting people before performance. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone stopped everything to help another person? What's your favorite Michael Jackson memory? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, every child deserves to dance, even if it's just in their dreams. Just like Emma taught Michael, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles.